There's a specific kind of silence that fills a childhood home, not the comfortable kind, the kind where love breathes easy. This is the silence that comes after you've brought home a report card with a single B among the A's. The silence where your parents say nothing at all, but their eyes say everything. And in that moment, you learn something fundamental about your place in the world, that love might not be as unconditional as you once believed. You were not born afraid of disappointing people. No child enters this world carrying the weight of other people's expectations like stones in their pockets. But somewhere along the way, between learning to walk and learning to apologize for taking up space, something shifted. You began to read the room before you entered it, to scan faces for signs of approval, to measure your worth not by how you felt, but by how others responded to you. This is the story of the child who learned that love was something to be earned, not given. The child who discovered that their parents' happiness was somehow their responsibility, who grew up believing that to be loved, they first had to be perfect, or at least never a burden. Today, we're going to explore the psychology of parental disappointment, not as a concept in a textbook, but as a lived experience that shapes everything about who you become. Because this isn't just about childhood. This is about the adult you are now, still carrying that child inside you, still afraid of letting people down, still seeking permission to simply exist. Let's start with a memory. You're 7 years old, maybe 8. You've just done something small, spilled juice on the carpet, forgotten to put your shoes away, laughed too loudly while your father was on an important phone call. Your parents' face changes, not dramatically, not violently, just a shift, a tightening around the eyes, a heaviness in their sigh. And suddenly the entire atmosphere of your home feels different. Like the air pressure is dropped before a storm. You don't consciously think, I have caused this, but your body knows. Your nervous system, that ancient animal part of you, registers the shift and files it away as data. I did something wrong. I created discomfort. I am the source of the problem. This is where hypervigilance is born. Hypervigilance is what happens when a child learns that safety is conditional. That peace in the home depends on their behavior, their achievements, their ability to anticipate needs before they're spoken. You become fluent in reading micro-expressions, the slight downturn of a mouth, the particular quality of silence that means disappointment rather than contentment. You learn to scan the emotional weather of every room you enter, adjusting yourself accordingly. Psychologists have a term for this, emotional parentification. It's when the child becomes responsible for managing the parent's emotional state, when your mother's happiness becomes your project, when your father's pride becomes your purpose. You're not just living your childhood, you're performing it, curating it, making sure it doesn't inconvenience anyone. And here's what makes this so insidious. Your parents probably aren't monsters. They probably love you. They probably believe they're motivating you, preparing you for a harsh world, teaching you discipline and excellence. They might have even said, I'm only hard on you because I care. And you believed them, because children believe everything at first. But love that comes with conditions teaches a child that they are not inherently worthy, that their value must be earned over and over again, through achievement, through obedience, through becoming whatever the parent needs them to be. And so, you learn to split yourself in two. The authentic self that wants and needs and makes mistakes, and the performed self that is palatable, pleasing, perfect. The tragedy is this: you become so good at being what others need that you forget how to simply be. There's a particular emotion that lives in the body of someone who grew up this way. It sits in your chest, heavy and familiar, like an old companion you never wanted but learned to accommodate. It whispers in moments of joy, reminding you not to celebrate too much. Someone might think you're bragging. It speaks up when you're about to express a need, suggesting you wait, that you're asking for too much. that you should be grateful for what you already have. This is shame, not the healthy kind that helps us course correct when we genuinely harm someone. This is toxic shame, the belief that you, at your core, are fundamentally flawed. Not that you did something wrong, but that you are something wrong. The child who feared disappointing their parents grows into an adult who experiences shame as a baseline state of being. You apologize reflexively for speaking, for existing, for having needs. You preface your opinions with, "I might be wrong, but..." You downplay your accomplishments. You feel guilty for resting, for saying no, for prioritizing yourself in any way. Where does this come from? From a childhood where your authentic expression was met with disappointment, where your anger was too much, where your sadness was inconvenient, where your needs interrupted the smooth functioning of the household. You learned that certain parts of you were unacceptable, so you buried them. You pushed them down so deep that eventually you forgot they were even there. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott wrote about the false self, a defensive facade we construct to protect our true selves from a world that feels threatening. The child who fears parental disappointment builds this false self with meticulous care. It's the version of you that smiles when you're expected to, that achieves because achievement equals approval, that never rocks the boat or demands too much attention. The false self becomes so convincing that even you begin to believe it's the real you. But here's what happens. The true self doesn't disappear. It goes into exile, but it doesn't die. It lives in your body as chronic tension, as anxiety, as a vague sense of emptiness that no amount of external success can fill. Shows up in your relationships where you're always worried about being too much or not enough. It manifests as perfectionism, people-pleasing, an inability to set boundaries without drowning in guilt. You become successful, perhaps. You achieve things. People might even admire you, but inside you still feel like that child waiting for someone to notice that you're not as good as you pretend to be. That eventually, they'll see through the performance and realize you were never worthy of their love to begin with. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in adult life, because the child who feared disappointing their parents becomes an adult who struggles with something fundamental, knowing what they actually want. Think about it. How much of your life is constructed around other people's expectations? Your career, is it yours, or is it what your parents envisioned for you? Your relationships, do you choose partners who genuinely nurture you, or ones who mirror that familiar dynamic of conditional acceptance? Your daily choices. How often do you check in with yourself versus checking in with everyone else first? Many people who grew up this way report a strange phenomenon. They can make decisions for others with clarity and confidence, but when it comes to themselves, there's just static, a blankness. "I don't know" becomes the most common phrase in your vocabulary because you were never taught to listen to your own internal compass. You were taught to orient yourself by other people's reactions. This creates what psychologists call an external locus of identity. Your sense of who you are exists outside of yourself, in other people's perceptions and judgments. You need external validation to feel real, to feel valuable, to feel like you matter. And this is exhausting, because no amount of validation ever quite fills the void. You achieve something, receive praise, feel briefly satisfied, and then the anxiety returns. What's next? How do I maintain this? What if I fail? What if they're disappointed? The irony is that the very thing you're seeking, unconditional acceptance, is the thing you can't find through conditional performance. You're trying to earn what can only be given freely, and in the process, you've abandoned the one person who actually needs your unconditional love, yourself. There's also the relationship pattern this creates. You're drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable, critical, or withholding, because that feels like home. That feels like love as you learned it. Someone who is genuinely kind and accepting feels suspicious, too easy, boring even. because your nervous system is wired for the anxiety of earning love, not the peace of receiving it. You might find yourself in friendships where you're always the giver, never the receiver, where you listen to everyone's problems but never share your own, because surely your struggles aren't important enough to burden others with. You might have romantic relationships where you're constantly trying to prove your worth, to be indispensable, to make yourself so useful that they couldn't possibly leave you. And underneath it all is a question you've been asking since childhood. Am I enough? The answer you learned was, not yet, not as you are. But maybe if you try harder, achieve more, need less, take up less space, maybe then. Here's the thing about this kind of childhood wound. It's invisible. There's no bruise to point to, no obvious trauma to name. Your parents probably didn't abuse you in any conventional sense. They fed you, clothed you, maybe even attended your soccer games and school performances. From the outside, everything looked fine, normal even. But emotional neglect, the failure to see and accept a child for who they truly are, leaves scars that are no less real for being hidden. It teaches you that your inner world doesn't matter, that feelings are inconvenient, that your authentic self is somehow deficient and needs to be constantly improved upon or hidden away. This is what psychologists call developmental trauma. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It accumulates over years of small abandonments. Every time your pain was minimized, every time your joy was met with indifference or criticism, every time you were told directly or indirectly that who you were wasn't quite right. And because it's invisible, you struggle to explain it to others. How do you articulate the weight of being raised in a home where love was a reward for good behavior? How do you make someone understand that perfectionism isn't a quirk or a humble brag about being detail-oriented? It's a survival mechanism, that people-pleasing isn't kindness. It's a desperate attempt to ensure you won't be abandoned. You can't. So you smile and say you had a normal childhood, that your parents did their best, that you're fine, really. Because to acknowledge the truth, that you were hurt by people who loved you, that you're still carrying that hurt decades later, feels like a betrayal, like you're being ungrateful, like you're disappointing them all over again. But here's what needs to be said. You can acknowledge the pain without negating the love. Both things can be true. Your parents may have loved you and harmed you. They may have wanted the best for you and communicated that in ways that taught you to fear your own inadequacy. This isn't about blame. It's about truth, about finally seeing what actually happened so you can begin to heal from it. The child inside you who learned to fear disappointment is still there, still waiting, still scanning for approval, still believing that love is something to be earned through flawless performance. And that child deserves to hear something they never heard enough. You are enough, exactly as you are. Your worth is not conditional. You don't have to earn the right to take up space in this world. So what now? How do you begin to untangle a belief system that's been woven into the very fabric of who you are? It starts with awareness, with recognizing the voice in your head that says you're not enough, and understanding that it's not your voice, it's an echo, it's the internalized disappointment of your parents, the accumulated weight of 1,000 small moments where you learned that you had to be more, do more, achieve more to be worthy of love. It continues with compassion, with understanding that the coping mechanisms you developed, the perfectionism, the people-pleasing, the inability to rest, weren't weaknesses. They were survival strategies. They helped you navigate a childhood where emotional safety felt conditional. You did what you needed to do to survive, and now, maybe, you can begin to release what no longer serves you. And it deepens with practice, with learning, slowly and imperfectly, to listen to your own needs, to set boundaries, even when it triggers that old fear of disappointing people, to choose authenticity over performance, even when it feels terrifying, to sit with the discomfort of not knowing if you're enough without immediately seeking external validation to soothe the anxiety. This isn't a quick fix. There's no single moment of revelation where you suddenly stop caring about other people's opinions or never doubt yourself again. Healing from this kind of wound is a gradual process, a practice of returning to yourself again and again, of building a new relationship with the person you've always been beneath the performance. It might mean therapy. It might mean journaling, meditation, somatic work, anything that helps you reconnect with your body and your authentic feelings. It might mean having difficult conversations with your parents, or it might mean accepting that they'll never fully understand. It might mean grieving the childhood you needed but didn't have, mourning the unconditional love that should have been yours by birthright. But here's the truth. You don't need to wait for your parents' approval anymore. You don't need anyone's permission to be yourself. The validation you've been seeking externally is something you can begin to give yourself. It won't feel natural at first. It might even feel ridiculous, like you're pretending. But every time you choose to honor your own needs, every time you practice self-compassion instead of self-criticism, you're rewiring decades of conditioning, and you're teaching that frightened child inside you that the world is not as dangerous as it once felt, that they can stop performing, that they can rest, that they were always enough, even before they achieved anything, even before they made anyone proud. So maybe today, just for a moment, you can pause. You can put down the weight of everyone's expectations. You can stop scanning the room for signs of approval or disappointment. You can ask yourself, what do I actually want? What do I actually feel? And maybe, just maybe, you can listen. Maybe the first step to healing is learning to disappoint the right people, starting with the version of yourself that believed you had to be perfect to deserve love.